Hey guys, welcome to the Cat in the Cardboard Box. I'm the cat and this is the box. And today, Sonic is distracting you from my messy bed. Well, actually, today I want to talk about an exhibit that I saw at the St. Paul History Center in Minnesota. For class, we went to see the U.S. Dakota War of 1862. And basically, what this was there were treaties that weren't kept between the Europeans and the Dakota, and war broke out, and it was horrific. I'm just going to read the intro of this brochure that I snagged. I didn't snag it, I didn't steal it, it was free, it was sitting there. So I'm just going to read this brief history of the Dakota War, just to let you know about it, I guess. The U.S. Dakota War of 1862 was the result of disastrous U.S. government Indian policies. Years of broken treaty promises to the Dakota, combined with an exploding settler population, created conditions ripe for conflict. Months before the war, George E. Day, a government official from Washington, D.C., visited Minnesota and wrote a report to President Abraham Lincoln documenting the rampant corruption associated with Indian affairs, but no action was taken. In August of 1862, when the Dakota were facing starvation after late annuity payments and the refusal by government agents and traders to release provisions, 4 young Dakota men killed 5 settlers near Acton. In the days that followed, tribal factions attacked the Lower Sioux Agency, Fort Ridgely, and white settlements in south central and southwestern Minnesota. Troops under the command of former Minnesota Governor Henry Sibley were sent to support Fort Ridgely and the settlers, ultimately defeating the Dakota forces and bringing the war to close by the end of September of 1862. The fighting lasted 6 weeks. Between 400 and 600 white civilians and soldiers, an unknown number of Dakota, were killed. On December 26, 1862, 38 Dakota men were hanged in Mankato in the largest mass execution in U.S. history. More than 300 had initially been condemned to death, but President Lincoln commuted the sentences of 264 men to prison terms. So going back to the actual exhibit, some things that stood out to me was, for one, just the names of a lot of the main people who were a part of this, like Henry H. Sibley and Alexander Ramsey. And just knowing that Abraham Lincoln was a part of this was kind of disturbing and sad, just because, you know, with slavery he's looked at as a hero, and yet he was totally a part of this war. And then just thinking about the execution in Mankato, that's 38 men who were hanged because they were Native American. I think that part of the exhibit actually stood out to me the most, because I remember reading that there were actually 2 men who weren't really Native American. I think one was adopted by a Native American family, and another one was, actually I'm not exactly sure, but they were, the title of that section was something like, these were 2 wronged deaths. And it's kind of horrible, because I'm pretty sure all the deaths in this war were wrong. You know, they didn't need to happen. The execution that happened in Mankato, I have been to Mankato, I have friends going to school in Mankato, and this was the largest mass execution in U.S. history, and I didn't know it happened. I have strong beliefs that my friends in Mankato may not even know this happened. So this was just an overall horrible thing to find out. And I'm going to read you the conclusion of this brochure, The War's Aftermath. The U.S. Dakota War of 1862 tore apart thousands of Dakota and settler homes and families. The losses were great, and the consequences were severe for all who were touched by the fighting, Europeans and Native Americans. Even after the war ended, the destitution, disease, and displacement it caused continued for years. In 1863, thousands of Dakota were forced down to reservations in the Dakota Territory and what is now Nebraska. Punitive expeditions that followed resulted in hundreds of Dakota being killed or forced further westward. Today, the majority of Dakota still live in communities outside of Minnesota. The war also forced around 20,000 settlers to flee their Minnesota homes, many never to return. Meanwhile, the treaties of 1851 and 1858 and the U.S. victory in the war opened up millions of acres for new settlement. Minnesota has been changed forever. Yep. Fucking right, it's been changed forever. And one other big thing that I learned is that apparently there is a law that Dakota can't live here. Still. After how many years? So I know this is kind of a downer. Okay, it's a really big downer and really kind of a sad video. But I do have one positive thing. I remember there was one woman named Mary who was captured by some Dakota and actually made friends with a Dakota woman known as Maggie. At least that's her English name is Maggie. And Maggie actually, those two became very close friends, and Maggie actually dressed Mary as a Dakota woman and hid her and kept her safe. And I think that is a really great note to end on, because there is still nice people in the world. And I think that's the only thing that actually made me smile about this exhibit. So now I've only touched the skim, the tippy tip top of the iceberg, and I would just encourage you to go online and just find out more for yourself. If you live in Minnesota or are going to be around sometime, definitely go to the History Center, because that was really a great exhibit. And there's also a website here, usdakotawar.org, and that will give you resources and information about the war and about its causes and aftermath, because of course Minnesota has been changed forever. Stuff happened and they don't teach about this in school. They don't, and I think it needs to be. So I hope that wasn't too much of a downer for you guys, but I felt like I really needed to make a video about this, so I did. And now you have this, and please go educate yourself in usdakotawar.org. I'll link it below, I suppose. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. And if you would like to see a little bit of behind the scenes of this video, link below to my vlog. I'm doing Vita. If you didn't know, I'm doing Vita. So please go and subscribe down there and go watch my Vita stuff. And one of the days I actually videotaped me editing this. And yeah, so have a wonderful day, and hope this didn't bring you down too much, but I also hope that it informed you and maybe added a little more perspective of our country. And if I don't see you soon, I will see you later. Bye! Oh, my stomach hurts. My chest hurts. Maybe that wasn't a good sound to make.